Purposely. Your life, God's purpose. Listen at onpurposely.com.
When the Lord promotes you, then He is the one that sustains you. But when we try to promote ourselves, then we have to keep sustaining that. We have to keep that wheel going. I'm like, man, I'm bad at that. I don't want to do that. I want to be promoted. I want to be moved to the next thing whenever it's the Lord's timing. And then I know He will be the one to help sustain that and keep that moving.
His name is Josh Baldwin. He's a songwriter, a worship leader, a husband, a father, and we're going to talk about all of it in this upcoming podcast, as well as how he is an avid golfer. Kind of a side note here, a disclaimer, we take a deep dive on golf. And I don't know much about it other than my perspective that my husband is a golfer, and I know that it's the world's longest hobby. So we kind of bond over that a bit. That's what I love about the Passion Meets Purpose podcast is, once you find something that someone's passionate about, they can talk about it. And that's what we're here for. So we're going to talk about worship leading, and we're going to talk about his hobby. And please enjoy this conversation with Josh Baldwin. Okay, Josh, so what I hear is that your dad was a musician and also led worship. And so I feel like I already understand how you got your start.
Yeah. Well, you know what? My dad, he's actually a pastor, but he grew up playing music and he was in like a, rock and roll band and all that stuff. And so when he became a pastor, he was in this Methodist church and they didn't have any music. And so he just had his electric guitar and he would just like do music and worship and be the pastor, the preacher. So I grew up in that. And yeah, that's where I got my start, was playing drums for him was actually what got me going.
Did you at that age ever imagine that you'd be where you are today, that this is what you were going to do?
No, I mean, I think at that age, I was probably 10, 11, 12 when I started playing drums. And then, our little church in North Carolina, I was drumming as a 12-year-old, and I mean, it wasn't good. I was a 12-year-old drummer. And in high school, growing up in music, I loved music. I loved Stephen Curtis Chapman was like the reason I wanted to play acoustic guitar and write songs. And my dad wrote songs, but I never thought that, I would get to do this at all. I mean, you dream about things, and I would play music and pretend like I'm Stephen Curtis Chapman or whoever in a concert. But that was like, I didn't just dream and think like that would actually happen. I just thought, I love this. And then, as I got into high school, I started leading worship. And that's really where I realized like, okay, I think this is like, and I don't just love this. I feel like I'm called to this. I feel like this is like going to be my job in a sense, and just who I'm supposed to be.
Whenever I hear of a kid that plays the drums, I instantly think of their mother.
Yeah. No, you should. My parents I remember they bought me this drum set and we put it in the garage. And so I got to play in the garage but even then it was just a little house in Charlotte that we had. So it was, you heard it throughout the whole house. And not just that, they got me that because I had gone around throughout the whole house with pens. And I would just be, banging on things and the pins would explode and like ink go everywhere. And so the drum, they were like, okay, instead of getting ink all over everything, let's get him drums in the garage and it'll just be loud, but he won't destroy our furniture.
Another thing that it makes me think of is like, I've started to notice a trend with other artists like yourself that I've interviewed where there's this pivotal moment where either you get the drum kit or for Chris Tomlin, it was he got ill and his dad got him a guitar and he was bored in bed. Yeah. So he started to play the guitar. I've heard this story so many times and I think my kids are always just on a screen. What are they missing? What hobby are they missing? Because I haven't put a spatula or a guitar or whatever the thing that's going to light them up.
No, that's true. That I've thought about with our kids too, because they're currently on screens right now so that we can even be talking because I'm home alone with them. We did actually get my son some drums, but we went the route that we couldn't go when I was drumming. We got electric drums so he can just put the headphones on and, and all you hear is just the beating of the sticks on the rubber pads. But no, it is true. And there's those pivotal moments. I remember the one I was 15 or 16, and I've been playing drums in my church for like 3 years. I was like the preacher's kid who also plays drum. You know, I was like musician / sports guy. And my youth pastor, he said, hey, we were just doing worship for our youth group. It was just like we put on a CD. And for those of you who don't know, CDs were what we used to listen to music. It's compact disc is what that stood for. And actually in my junior high, it was cassettes. And then we went to compact disc. But he was like, we would love to have some live worship in our church, in our youth group. And so he's like, your dad leads worship. You should just learn how to play the guitar and lead worship. And I was like, all right. And then, but he actually gave me a guitar and taught me like a few chords, and he didn't even play well. Like he was bad. And my dad was like the one that was really good, but my dad didn't want to like push anything on me. And which looking back, like I appreciate that now. He wanted me to like fall in love with it because it was something and not feel like, oh, my dad does this, I'm supposed to do this too. But I remember that moment, my youth pastor taught me like 3 chords, and he's like, hey, why don't you just start practicing, see if you can do this? And so I did. And that was like what you were saying, this pivotal moment, everything kind of shifted. And I realized like, oh, this is like my heart just lit up. It later moved to like song. I had one of those moments with songwriting too. And
I want to hear.
Okay. Yeah. It was, I went to this ministry school, and I left. So after high school, after I graduated high school, I went to a college, Lee University, and I really only went there because all of my best friends from high school went there, or for youth group. I didn't really know what I wanted to do. I didn't want to really go to college, but I didn't know what to do if you didn't go to college, because I didn't have like a career that I was like, I wanted to play music, but back then, I graduated in 97, and back then it's not like you just thought, I want to be a worship leader for the rest of my life. No one. And so I just went to college for 2 years, and I didn't go to class much. I would stay in my dorm room, and I wasn't a bad kid. I would like listen to worship music and play guitar, and I loved to play basketball. But I finally realized like, hey, college is probably not for me, and I'm wasting my money and my parents' money. And so I finally dropped out of college after my sophomore year and went to a ministry school in Charlotte. And the school that I went to, they had like, it was a school, a ministry school, Bible college, but they also had a track you could do for like, if you wanted to lead worship in the chapels. And their only catch was you could only lead songs that you write, which is kind of crazy. And I thought, well, I've been leading worship in youth group, and like, I've been leading worship for all these years. This is crazy. Like, I feel like I'm good at this and I'm called to this, but I've never written a song. But I was like, but I know this is what I'm called to, so I'm just going to try to write a song. And I really just wrote a song so that I could get up on stage and lead worship, which I don't know if that's like the best thing to do. But what it did was like, it lit this fire in me to also, it helped me see, oh, I want to do this with my life too. Like, I feel like I'm one of those guys that needs to get like shoved into his destiny in some ways, or tricked into it. It's like, I feel like the Lord's like, hey, why don't you do this? Oh, look where you are. You're where you're supposed to be.
I love that. I relate to that so much. Let's go back to CDs for a second. Those little discs that most cars don't even have a CD player, but my van still does. So I could get a physical copy of your latest album, but you had to get those redone.
I was just going to say, I have a fun story with that. I was out on tour this past spring with Phil Wickham, and, I did what you do. You take merch. I took my CDs, my Evidence album. And I mean, thankfully we ended up halfway through the tour, we sold out of the albums. So we had a little break in the tour. So I reordered albums and got them back for the next date. We go out, and the day after our first night on that run, we got emails, and people were saying, hey, we bought an album last night, Josh Baldwin, Evidence, and we put it in our car, and this all of a sudden it was a man and a woman, and they were basically, I think it was like a teaching for kids on like the Revolutionary War. I don't. It was called The Patriot Doctor, and it just comes on. It's like, okay, Uncle Johnny, we're ready for. But I was panicking, and I thought, well, maybe this is just like one family, and they have like a 6 CD changer in their minivan, and they got them mixed up. But then so the next day we were like, okay, let's just check these. So I started unwrapping them, and everyone we put in were all Uncle Johnny and his Patriot Doctor. And so I panicked, but luckily we had only gone one night with it. So we had to trash all of those, reorder. But it's a great story. And had I not thrown all those away, it might have been a good little like, hey, limited edition Evidence album featuring the Patriot Doctor by Uncle Johnny and Aunt, I don't know what her name was.
I think it was Nancy. Hold on.
Aunt Nancy? Was it Nancy?
I don't know. Let's get the actual clip. Here we go.
Hey guys. So not long ago, I had to reorder some new Evidence CDs. The last run we were out, I got word from people who had purchased the new run of CDs that something was just a little bit off. So, I want to try this out.
Hello, everyone. Uncle John and I are happy to be with you again.
Yes, we are, Aunt Nikki, and I can't wait to present Aunt Carol's next story.
Well, now, let's see if I can guess who it might be about. Will you give me a hint, Uncle John?
Okay.
Guys, we threw those albums out. We got a whole new batch of Evidence albums, and they work. I've tried them, and we're bringing them this week to the last run of Hymn of Heaven tour with Phil Wickham, and Vertical Worship is our special guest. Come on out, worship with us, buy some albums. Love you guys.
That's a special kind of gift.
I you know what? My prayer is that everyone who purchased the Patriot Doctor, Uncle Johnny, is just getting blasted with Josh Baldwin Evidence album right now. That would be really awesome. But I doubt that happened. That was probably just a little blessing for me.
You did you just wrap up the Hymn of Heaven tour?
We did. We just finished it a couple weeks ago.
Cody Carnes, Phil Wickham, what a crew.
It was so fun. It was too much fun, honestly. It didn't feel a job at all. It was just amazing. And some of my favorite people in this world. I mean, Cody, he's a golf buddy of mine around here. We live close to each other, so we play golf a lot. And then Leland came out, and I've known Leland for years, and Kim Walker-Smith. I mean, it was great. And Phil is just the sweetest man that's ever walked this earth. I mean, he's great. And he was so, he's so pastoral and he just really shepherds everyone that's around, he just cares. And it was great. The nights were amazing.
I was going to say, I'm having fun with sound effects today. So this is your favorite sound. You only post your garbage shots on Instagram.
I mean, that's true. I just because here's the thing that happened. I post a lot about golf, and I think it's because I just feel comfy. Like sometimes I don't post enough about what I actually do and songs and all that. And I don't know why, but golf feels like a safe place to me. And so I post a lot, but because of that, people just assume that I'm really good. And I get texted a lot from buddies or Instagram message from people, and they're like, we want to play with you, or my friends want to, and I'm like, I'm not good, I just play a lot. But so I feel like it's important to post the shots that are bad so people can relate to me, and I can be very comfy to people. But I love it. It's my first passion and love as far as sports goes was basketball. And the older I get, though, the less opportunities I get to play. And then I just get scared that I'm going to hurt myself, not be able to walk, onto a plane or play guitar, break my fingers. So I'm like, golf is like a safe old man sport.
We have a lot of parallels. My husband loves to golf, and he used to love basketball, and he made the same transition you did for the same reasons you did.
It makes sense, doesn't it? Yeah.
How does Sheila, your wife, feel about how long it is the world's longest hobby?
It is. She's figured out now. She's like, she doesn't like sports. She doesn't care about sports. It's funny because sports is kind of like my first love, and then music. And she really doesn't care at all. but she's learned enough about golf now to know, like, are you playing 9 holes or are you playing at 18? And when are you going? Why aren't you going early in the morning? Because if you go early in the morning, then you can be done. You can be done by noon.
What's your tea time?
Yeah, what's your tea time? Why is it at
want
noon?
you waking up in the dark.
Yeah, she's like, well, why are the kids need to be picked up at 3:30? Are you going to be able to do that? Are you going to go straight from the course? And then she's like, when I go on tour or do something like that, she's like, why don't you take your clubs with you so you can play? Because she's like,
yep.
Why don't you play when you're traveling and not when you're home?
Get it out of your system.
Get it out of your system.
Sure.
Yeah. But she's like, she'll text me like, what hole are you on? And then I'll have to, tell her the truth and tell her what hole I'm really on and how long do you think it'll take you to play those last 3 holes? I'm like, oh, we're behind somebody slow, babe. They've been holding us up all day.
I have gotten that text many times.
I'm sure.
It's always the people in front. All right. So where's your dream foursome and dream location?
I would love to play. You know what? I'd love to play with Chris Tomlin. I haven't played with him yet, but I've played in a little tournament that he was playing at, but not with him. I'd love to play with him. I'd also, who wouldn't want to play with Tiger Woods? Although I feel like I would be a lot nervous. But, oh man, Tom Brady. I'd love to play with Tom Brady. Just like, okay, Chris Tomlin, Tiger Woods, Tom Brady, and me. That would be fun.
And then what course?
Oh, Pebble Beach. Or TBC Sawgrass. That's another great one too. My dream, if we're dreaming, okay, we're dreaming, right? So I want a course that's like real, which I don't know if they exist. I've heard in Texas there's courses where they take all the most famous holes from all different courses and it's like one course. So that's what I actually want to be. So then you can actually play like the 18 most famous holes in all of golf on one course. We are really nerding out on some sports right now. Sorry. You're like,
that's what I love about this podcast, though. You do music, but you said sports is number one. And
it is my passion.
I think a lot of artists that do what you do, this is what they do before the show. Toby Mac has his own Instagram just for golf.
I actually talked to him at Topgolf not long ago. And we were talking about a song. And I was like, hey, we have to play golf together. I should have added him in my foursome. Oh, okay. Chris is out. Toby's in.
Another thing about your wife, Sheila, that I've heard is that she calls it the billboards.
She does. I love how little she knows about stuff like that and just doesn't care. Her lack of knowledge in anything has nothing to do with her confidence. Like she is the most confident woman. And she'll text and ask about like, okay, how are we doing on the billboards? And I'm like, what are the billboards, babe? What are you? Yeah, she's precious.
The Passion Meets Purpose podcast is made possible thanks to our friends at Northwest University. Ensuring a welcoming spirit for you at Northwest University, your tuition remains lower than all other Christian schools in Washington. And NU is all in on tech. They've got a brand new state-of-the-art technology studio, and majors include UX design, data science, video production, audio production, and computer science. This is in addition to an already diverse offering of business, nursing, education, sciences, communication, psychology, music, and humanities. Northwest University is a faith-based community, Christ-centered in all they do. At Northwest University, your future isn't canceled. It's just beginning. I want to read something that you wrote about your family, and then I want you to talk about it. You say, I remember it like it was yesterday. I was in my 20s, single, and living in a little house in the mountains of North Carolina. I would go outside late at night and pace the dirt road next to my home, praying for my future wife and children. I wanted to be a dad so badly. I was given an amazing dad, and I knew that one of the greatest joys of my life would be to be a father. The Lord answered my prayers and gave me 2 wonderful children who are the joys of my life, and He allowed me to marry the most amazing woman I've ever laid eyes on. Thank you, Dad, for being a great father and friend. My dream has always been to be a dad just like you. Thank you to Ellie and Bear for making me a dad. I love you so strong.
Wow. I'm like tearing up. I'm like, who wrote that? Yeah, I forgot. I wrote that on Father's Day. I was in my late 20s and leading worship at this little church in Wilkesboro, North Carolina, which is a little town in the mountains of North Carolina. And lived in this little, what I thought was a haunted house by myself. And it was just I had a dirt driveway, a long dirt driveway. And I would just walk around and pace that driveway and just ask the Lord, what is going on? What am I doing? Where am I? Why am I here? Why am I alone, Lord? And yeah, I just pray. I pray obviously for a wife, for someone, but I also knew I wanted to be a father my whole life. I just like knew that I was going to be a dad and I was going to be a good dad. And most of that was because I knew I've had such a great dad. He's like now he's like one of my closest friends now. Yes. I looked forward to having that relationship with my kids. And the Lord, he's so faithful. Cause I was 31 when we got married and I didn't meet my wife until I was 29. And we got married when I was 31 and we had kids. Actually, my daughter was born on our 1-year wedding anniversary. And then 6 months later, we got pregnant again. And I cried, not out of joy, out of fear of how am I going to protect and take care of all these people. But I just remember this past Father's Day, it hit me when I just thought about, I looked around and saw like all that the Lord's given me and thought, man, don't forget those days when you were pacing the road, just like praying, crying out to the Lord and dreaming and just sharing your heart with the Lord. And it didn't look like it was going to happen. I'm sure people get married way later than I did, but when you're in like your late 20s and you're up in the middle of nowhere in the mountains of North Carolina, I would have never looked, 12 years ahead or 15 years ahead and saw what I see now. It was, I dreamed it, but I didn't think it was actually really going to happen. I wrote a song about it. All throughout my history, your faithfulness has walked beside me. And I think about those times on that dirt road when it was just me and the Lord, and I was crying out like and praying in hope, but also that thing that like David did in the Psalms where he's just like crying out like, Lord, where are you? And like, what's going, why me? And why am I here right now? And I have all these dreams in my heart, and why aren't they happening right now? When I want them and need them to happen. And then looking back, I think, wow, I'm so glad that I got to have those moments with the Lord where I just cried out and I felt like this hunger and passion that sometimes it's harder to feel when you're living in like the overflow or the blessing that you prayed for back then. There's sometimes I'm like crying out for like some of that passion that I felt like I had when I was like hanging on and thought I was going to be alone and it was just me and him, or I would have been alone. That's what started that post, that me thinking about all that. And I was like, okay, I've been so blessed.
I've heard you speak before about how kind of like your youth pastor handed you a guitar and taught you, and you've had some other people along the way speak these prophetic words over you and over your life. And I think you've spoken before about like, if those don't come to pass at the time you think that they're gonna, you start to think something's wrong with you. That's like your first place you go. Do you want to talk a little bit about maybe one of those words and how maybe it's come to fruition now and maybe it happened differently, but someone spoke something over you a while ago and what that means?
Yeah. I mean, that's so true. I feel like my teens and mostly my 20s though, it's like the time when it seems like, and maybe it's like this for a lot of people in those years, those formative years when you're like figuring out what you want to do with your life and what it looks like. It feels like a lot of times you need people like that around you to speak those words to keep you going, just to keep you like dreaming and hanging on. But it can get frustrating because you think, oh, if somebody said this or somebody's heard the Lord say this, or if the Lord's saying this to me, then I guess it's happening like next week. So I better get ready, and it doesn't mean that. It means like, I don't know, maybe next week, but also probably not, and probably years down the road. And so you have to remember, or I just feel like I hear the Lord saying, okay, I'm telling you this to give you hope, to know that I have a plan for you. Those are there, but also don't forget when I don't know what to do, or I feel like I'm trying to make it happen when it's not time for it to happen. I have to remember, okay, what was the last thing that I felt like I heard him say, or where did he plant me last? And if that's like, go back to that and be there. And I would get words in my 20s when I was alone and leading worship at that little church in North Carolina in the mountains. And I was writing songs back then, but I would get these words like, you're going to write songs that people are going to sing all over the world. And, and it was these grandiose, like, stadiums and anthems that the whole, all this. And I'm like, oh, that's awesome. And I would just like, I would definitely be like, oh, thank you, Lord. But then also really like, I'm living in my little house here in Wilkesboro, North Carolina. No one knows who I am. How is that even going to happen? Like, I don't have enough money to record one song, and I'm not even a good songwriter right now. And, just that kind of thing. Yeah, it was those times where I felt like the Lord was like, don't worry how it's going to happen. That's my job. You stay, I have you here. So be all in 100% here. And it's just kind of this visual. I always got this visual of like these dreams that I have. And it was like a garden of dreams and garden of words and like prophetic promises and words that I've been given. And I almost felt like it was my responsibility to water them. But I felt like the Lord was like, no, your responsibility is to where I have you over here. And I was a worship pastor at that moment. So at that moment, I'm like, or he was like, your responsibility is to pastor these people, and you let me pastor your dreams. Let me water your dreams. And as you are taking care of what I told you last and where I have you planted, then I'll breathe on these dreams, and they will come to fruition in time, and it'll be in the right time. And that's so important, because I think nowadays, it's always been like this, but there's something about even social media that it helps people feel the need to just make things happen, And I feel like our pastor, he always says this, like when the Lord promotes you, then he is the one that sustains you. But when we try to promote ourselves, then we have to keep sustaining that. We have to keep that wheel going. And I'm like, man, I'm bad at that. I don't want to do that. I want to be promoted. I want to be moved to the next thing whenever it's the Lord's timing. And then I know he will be the one to help sustain that and keep that moving. And, so yeah, there was those words that I got back then that they held me and they kept me somewhat sane in those lonely moments, but I didn't know how to make them come about myself. And I think just trusting in the Lord throughout the years is what's, brought it about.
You were to pastor the people in front of you, and he was going to pastor your dreams.
Yeah.
My last question for you is actually about your most recent song that we have on the station, which is There Is Freedom. And you have all these declarations. Is that in the bridge of the song? Is that where that's happening?
Yeah. Watch the lies break off and watch the enemy flee. I'm trying to remember my own song now. Watch the walls come. I have to sing it. When you just say it, it's like,
yeah, that's fine. Sing it.
Like,
sing it.
Watch the lies break off. Watch the enemy flee. Watch the walls come crumbling down when the people of God sing. Yeah.
That is, in essence, what you are helping people do. Like the power of words, the words that you are lending people to articulate what they feel deep inside. That is a powerful song. And what's it like to sing that from the stage and watch the reaction to those words and watch the reality of that become true in someone's life?
Yeah, it's been great. It's been, the cool thing about it is I haven't, since that song came out, I've been on the Phil Wickham tour. So that's been like kind of the only place I've had to sing it or lead it. And we've started doing it as like an acoustic moment. So we didn't even play with the whole band, which made it even more special to me, because it was just like the whole band, everybody left. It's just me and my acoustic and the people. And so it's mostly just our voices. And when you get to, especially that bridge, when you get to that part where it's everyone saying, watch the lies break off, watch the enemy. When the people of God sing, there's something so powerful when we all come together and join together as one body and to make these declarations. It's felt really powerful. And I think, I don't think I realized like how much I would love singing that bridge more than I love the rest of the song. But the song started with the chorus, like a lot of songs do. And I loved it. I like immediately was like, oh, feels special. But then when we wrote the bridge, I was like, okay, this is where things are going to happen. This is where, as we join together, the belief and the belief and reality that what the Lord said we could do and what we could have actually is possible, and we will believe it together. And as we join together, where two or more are gathered, there he is. And where he is, there's freedom.
My last question for you is my favorite question to ask songwriters and artists. And everyone has a very unique, different answer. Why do we sing?
Oh, wow. Why do we sing? You know what? I don't know why. I don't know how I would live my life without singing. I joke around singing all the time. I write songs about the Lord, but I write funny songs and dumb songs about daily life. And we have them in our home that we just like sing each other, and they're dumb, but they're awesome and they bring so much joy. Singing is just joy to me. It is. I feel like it's the Lord's gift to us to articulate joy. I don't know. I never thought about it, but that's so, now I'm going to really think about this. I kind of love that you asked me that, and I've never thought about that question before.
I love, as an interviewer, being able to ask someone a question they've never been asked before. And I think that for you said it was joy. It was joy for you.
It really is. And it's not, I know that doesn't even mean everything I sing is joyful, because I'm from the South. I sing a lot of country songs, a lot of country type vibey songs, and they're not all joy. But there's such a joy that comes out of it. And it feels like it's a release. Even just throughout the history of music, singing has always been a release of like emotions and feelings and what we're going through, and just good or bad. It's like the Psalms in a lot of ways. It's just, but it is like joyful to me. It just like, there's so much life in it to me. I don't know what I would do if I couldn't sing or if I didn't sing.
Well, thank you for sharing all the things that bring life to you and the way that you pour back out and give back to the world. And we're going to link up to all of your, ways that people can find you and your music in the show notes. And so, I just really appreciate your time.
Thank you so much. It's so good to be here.
Our thanks to Josh Baldwin and the team at Bethel Music. Our thanks to Andrea Clyde for setting this one up with Boxer Poet. And our thanks to Scott Caro, our fantastic producer with Terra Firma, content coordinator Rebecca Beckett. It takes all of us to make this happen, and I look forward to seeing you again in 2 weeks.